As organizations work to advance their diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, understanding and addressing the unique and diverse experiences of disabled and neurodivergent employees is key to making meaningful and sustained progress. Deloitte's 2024 Disability Inclusion at Work report provides insights into these experiences and recommends steps employers can take to advance disability inclusion at work. I'm here with Emma Codd, Global Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Deloitte, to discuss some of the report's key findings, as well as best practices for HR leaders looking to make a positive difference and advance disability inclusion at work.
6 in 10 respondents have missed at least one work event or meeting or networking opportunity due to a lack of accessibility. How can HR leaders ensure that disabled employees are given equal consideration during company events and other moments that matter?
Yeah, and I mean, this is really depressing, frankly, this stat. I know how I feel when I can't attend something. And actually, just to put alongside that, from an accessibility perspective, there's only a third of our respondents told us that they don't experience any accessibility challenges at work. Only a third. The rest of our respondents, they do in some form or other. And so, to me, accessibility is table stakes. These are things that we really should be getting right. And then, physical accessibility is cited by respondents as one of the top things their employer could do to make meaningful progress on disability inclusion in their workplace. And that's actually above access to workplace accommodations. And then just a couple of other bits of data before we sort of get on to how can we ensure this. It just to drill down a bit. So nearly 4 in 10 told us that they have missed a work event held outside the workplace due to venue lack of accessibility. So that could be an external meeting that everyone's going to at a venue. A third have been unable to attend one or more events at their workplace due to inaccessibility. Just over a quarter missed the chance to socialise outside of the workplace with colleagues for the same reason. The most common obstacles, which brings us on to what can be done. So inaccessible restrooms, I mean, these are really basics. Lack of breaks in the agenda, assistant or carer or service animal not being permitted to attend, or the room or venue was not physically accessible. So what can we do? How can HR leaders ensure that employees with disabilities are given equal consideration and frankly, equal opportunities? So look, I think it's embedding accessibility into business as usual throughout the career life cycle. And as I said before, to me, this is table stakes. So it means looking at our business as usual processes through an accessibility lens. So that's recruitment, onboarding, and other core elements of work. Well, I actually have a disability inclusion advisory group, and I also have a neurodiversity inclusion advisory group. And those are people around our organization, around the sort of world of Deloitte, who give me input on everything that we do, because I don't have that lived experience, but they do. And so when we're building something new, when we're coming up with new policy, it's really important that we get that input. And they will flag things that, to be really honest, we had not even thought of. So I think those are the core elements. And then, and that also includes meetings and other work events, and including the chance to socialize with colleagues. So again, something we found really important. We've created checklists. So at a global level, we've created checklists that are used by those who are organizing the events and meetings, because often they may not be people that are, expert in the things that HR leaders will be expert in. So how do we give them really easy tools so they can go through the checklist when they're organizing a meeting, either in-house or both, frankly, externally as well. And that will be for the venue, like accessible bathrooms, accessible building itself, access for support animals, areas for those that may experience sensory overload. And then also it'll be when it comes to format, so hybrid format, again, and then finally the agenda, so regular breaks as well. And then we also have created other elements of accessibility guidance. So, for example, digital accessibility, all of these things that it's really a case of looking at what we do through a lens, talking to people with lived experience, really getting their views, listening and actually addressing on their views. And then really don't forget basic things like checklists. So many organizations just don't have the basics. And to me, that's often what this is about. It's about the basics. And it doesn't have to mean that you're massively overhauling things. It's giving the tools to people. People do not want to exclude. It's just that they may exclude inadvertently because of a lack of information at their fingertips.
Many disabled employees would benefit from remote working arrangements, but are or feel unable to do so. Why is remote work or other forms of flexible work or changing work schedules so beneficial to these employees? And going along with that, how can HR leaders ensure that employees are provided with those accommodations without stigma?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer for this one is definitely in the data that we have. So if you look at the data and just sort of pulling out various bits and pieces that I think are really, really relevant to remote working or other forms of flexible working, and particularly working from home. And we asked a lot of questions about that, and we asked a lot of questions about the way that you work, the way you'd like to work. If you can't do that, why not? If you choose not to do that, why not? And that gives us such an insight. So in terms of the benefits of working from home in particular, so nearly half of those who work from home for at least some of the time say their home is actually more accessible than their employer's premises. And when they're asked to cite the benefits of working from home, those respondents who are able to work from home either some of the time or all the time, they say, they highlight that it's easier to get work done each day. That's, 57% of those that are able to work from home. 55% say they're less concerned about health risks. 46% say they're able to receive the necessary care from someone in their household. And really, very concerningly, 29% see a benefit as being that they are less concerned about experiencing discrimination and harassment. However, only 9% of all our respondents said they could actually work from home all the time. Now, some of them, so nearly 3 in 10, say they can work from home for specific agreed periods. Just under a quarter say they can work from home for some of their working time and they don't need advance approval. 2 in 10 who say, well, I can't because my job needs me to actually physically be on site. So the nature of the work they do. And then unfortunately, there's another 2 in 10 just over that basically say my employer doesn't provide a work from home option, so I can't do it even if I wanted to. And we come on to the, how can HR leaders ensure that employees are provided with the accommodations they need without stigma? I think we've really got to understand the barriers. And the data shows us of those respondents who could work from home but chose not to. Okay, so when you've got the opportunity to do it, if you make an active choice not to, why is that? And nearly 4 in 10 said that they were worried about missing out on professional opportunities in the office. So just that whole presenteeism thing, that whole, the moments of being around where someone might be allocating work. And then, and if you're not physically there, then you're not going to get a look into that work. And we see that with other surveys that we do as well, that's a concern. 30% believe that working in person is better for their career. 30% feel that people may think less of them if they work from home. And 2 in 10 say their supervisor prefers that they work in the office. So what does that show us? Well, that shows us that there's some stigma attached to working from home. There's a culture of presenteeism in some cases. There's a concern about missing out on opportunities. And then there's concern or a view about the preference of leaders. And, so for an HR leader, it's dealing with looking at those barriers. what is it that we have to do to make that work? So there will be policy, there'll be normalizing it as normalizing flexible working, working from home, just working in different ways that are beyond the norm, normalizing that as part of this is what we do as normal. This is rather than it being something that is difficult, something that has to go through a lengthy application process. A lot of organizations will advertise roles as flexible roles right from the start, and we'll say we are open to applications from those who work flexibly. Things like that really, really help to break down barriers. And then I think it is the role of leaders. And so for an HR leader, that's educating leaders, because often, as an HR leader, you are not going to be the person having that conversation with the employee that wants to work from home, that's sort of sitting there thinking, well, I really want to, and actually it's going to be better for my health, it's going to, be better for me all round, but just doesn't want to ask for it. And so that is really about, I think, about educating about flexible working. I think there is still a lot of entrenched views about when you can't see somebody, they're not delivering. The reality is that is very, very, that, is not the case. And the reality is that, very good inclusive leaders who lead very, very well tend to get very positive results for teams that work in different ways. And we've seen that in hybrid working and actually in remote working as well. So it's enabling the leaders to lead in an inclusive way when you don't have everyone under your nose. And so you're not in a position where, there is a concern that a leader will literally just hand out something to the person that they see versus thinking properly about the opportunity for somebody that may not be if physically in a workplace as well. And really, just to make sure that, flexible working is really seen as a positive. In my own organization, it is a positive. We have people working in all sorts of ways. Hybrid working is something that, is very important to us. And, and we have had a really big focus on inclusive leadership as well. And disability, inclusion, and neurodiversity are priorities for us. And that includes making sure leaders understand the importance of that. And so you sort of put all that together, and, it is really about focus on inclusive leadership, and then making sure you've got the right policies and processes in place so that actually it's much easier for somebody actually to ask. And as I said, just making it the norm rather than something that there's some stigma attached and there's a concern about perception, whereas there really shouldn't be in this day and age.